Praxis 5435. 5 Key Life Science Terms You Must Know Preparation Quiz. Question 1. A student is studying the human circulatory system and learns about the path of blood through the heart. The teacher asks the student to trace the path of a single red blood cell from the moment it returns to the heart from the body until it is pumped back out to the body. Which of the following sequences correctly represents this path through the heart and lungs? Is it Option A, right atrium through the tricuspid valve to the right ventricle, through the pulmonary valve to the pulmonary artery to the lungs, back via the pulmonary veins to the left atrium, through the mitral valve to the left ventricle, and through the aortic valve to the aorta to the body? B, left atrium through the mitral valve to the left ventricle, through the aortic valve to the aorta to the body, back via the vena cava to the right atrium, through the tricuspid valve to the right ventricle, and through the pulmonary valve to the lungs. C, right ventricle through the pulmonary valve to the lungs, back to the right atrium, through the tricuspid valve to the left atrium, through the mitral valve to the left ventricle and out the aorta. Or D, right atrium directly to the left atrium through the interatrial septum, then to the left ventricle and out to the body bypassing the lungs. The correct answer is A. This question tests knowledge of cardiac anatomy and the pulmonary and systemic circulation pathways. Deoxygenated blood returns from the body through the superior and inferior vena cava and enters the right atrium. From there, it passes through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. The right ventricle pumps the blood through the pulmonary valve into the pulmonary artery, which carries it to the lungs for oxygenation. Oxygenated blood returns from the lungs via the pulmonary veins and enters the left atrium. It then passes through the mitral or bicuspid valve into the left ventricle. The powerful left ventricle pumps the blood through the aortic valve into the aorta, from which it is distributed to the rest of the body. Option A correctly lists this entire sequence. The other options present various errors in the order of chambers, valves, or vessels. Remember, we can take your Praxis 5435 exam for you remotely and undetected with 150 score guaranteed. Message us via the number in the bio. Question 2. A biology class is studying the process of evolution by natural selection. The teacher presents a scenario. A population of beetles lives in a forest with both light-colored and dark-colored trees. Birds prey on the beetles, eating those that are easily visible. Initially, the beetle population includes both light and dark individuals. Over several generations, the proportion of dark beetles increases significantly in areas where the tree bark is dark, while the proportion of light beetles increases in areas where the tree bark is light. Which of the following statements best describes the evolutionary mechanism driving this change? Is it Option A, the dark beetles in the dark forest intentionally change their color to match the trees to avoid being eaten, and this acquired trait is then passed on to their offspring? B, individual beetles adapt during their lifetimes by gradually becoming darker or lighter in response to their environment, and these beneficial adaptations are inherited by the next generation. C, there is natural heritable variation in color within the beetle population, and individuals with a color that provides better camouflage against predators survive longer and reproduce more successfully, passing those advantageous color genes to their offspring. Or D, the birds selectively eat only the beetles that are the most numerous in the population, which causes the beetle population to evolve toward having a more balanced color ratio over time. The correct answer is C. This question tests the core principles of natural selection. The correct explanation involves 3 key components: heritable variation, differential survival and reproduction, and the inheritance of advantageous traits. The beetle population already possessed genetic variation for color. In an environment with dark trees, dark beetles were better camouflaged, making them less likely to be eaten by birds. Consequently, dark beetles had a higher survival rate and reproduced more, passing on the alleles for dark coloration to the next generation. This process gradually increased the frequency of the dark allele in the gene pool. Option A describes Lamarckism, the incorrect idea that acquired traits can be inherited. Option B also describes the inheritance of acquired characteristics. Option C correctly describes natural selection acting on existing variation. Option D misrepresents the mechanism. Selection is based on fitness, not just numerical abundance. Question 3. A student is studying the periodic table and notices that elements in the same group, the vertical column, tend to have very similar chemical properties. The student asks why this pattern occurs. Which of the following explanations best answers this question? Is it Option A, elements in the same group have the same number of occupied electron shells, and this determines how they interact with other atoms? B, elements in the same group have the same number of valence electrons in their outermost shell, and these are the electrons involved in chemical bonding, giving them similar reactivity. C, elements in the same group have the same atomic mass, and atomic mass is the primary factor that determines chemical behavior. Or D, elements in the same group were all discovered around the same time in history and were grouped together based on their discovery dates. The correct answer is B. This question addresses the fundamental organizational principle of the periodic table. The periodic law states that the chemical and physical properties of elements are periodic functions of their atomic number. This periodicity is explained by the electron configuration of the atoms. Elements in the same group have the same number of electrons in their outermost shell, known as valence electrons. Valence electrons are responsible for forming chemical bonds, so elements with the same valence electron configuration exhibit similar chemical behavior. Option A is incorrect because the number of electron shells increases moving down a group, not within a group. Option B correctly identifies valence electrons. Option C is incorrect. Atomic mass increases down a group, but is not the primary determinant of chemical properties. Option D is historically inaccurate. The periodic table's power lies in its ability to predict chemical behavior based on electron configuration. Question 4. A student is studying the human nervous system and learns about the structure of a neuron in the synapse, the gap between two neurons. The student asks how an electrical signal in one neuron manages to cross this physical gap to stimulate the next neuron. Which of the following explanations best describes the most common mechanism of synaptic transmission? Is it? Option A. The electrical signal or action potential simply jumps across the synapse as a spark, directly stimulating the next neuron, a process made possible by the close proximity of the cells. B. When the action potential reaches the end of the first neuron, it triggers the release of chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. These molecules diffuse across the synaptic cleft and bind to specific receptors on the second neuron, causing ion channels to open and generating a new electrical signal in that neuron. C. The axon of the first neuron physically fuses with the dendrite of the second neuron, creating a continuous pathway so the electrical signal can travel without interruption. Or D. Calcium ions carry the electrical charge directly from one neuron to the next across the synapse, acting as the primary signaling molecules. The correct answer is B. This question tests knowledge of synaptic transmission, the fundamental process by which neurons communicate. At the vast majority of synapses in the nervous system, communication is chemical, not electrical. When an action potential reaches the presynaptic terminal, it causes voltage-gated calcium channels to open. The influx of calcium ions triggers synaptic vesicles to fuse with the presynaptic membrane, releasing neurotransmitters into the synaptic cleft. These neurotransmitters diffuse across the gap and bind to specific receptor proteins on the postsynaptic membrane. This binding causes ion channels to open, leading to a change in the membrane potential of the postsynaptic neuron, which can generate a new action potential. Option A describes electrical synapses, which exist but are less common. Option B correctly describes chemical synaptic transmission. Option C is incorrect. There is a physical gap. Option D misrepresents the role of calcium, which is an intracellular trigger, not the carrier of the signal across the synapse. Understanding this process is key to neurobiology and pharmacology. Question 5. A student is studying the internal structure of the Earth and learns about the crust, mantle, outer core, and inner core. The teacher explains that seismic waves have been crucial in helping scientists understand these layers. P waves, or primary waves, can travel through both solids and liquids. S waves, or secondary waves, can only travel through solids. Seismographs around the world detect P waves from an earthquake, but S waves are not detected in a specific shadow zone on the opposite side of the Earth. Which of the following conclusions about Earth's interior is best supported by this observation? Is it? Option A. The Earth's core is entirely solid, which blocks the transmission of S waves, creating the observed shadow zone. B. Part of the Earth's core, the outer core, must be liquid, because S waves cannot travel through liquids and are therefore not detected in the shadow zone. C. The Earth's mantle is completely liquid, which is why S waves are able to pass through it but are slowed down significantly. Or D. The Earth's crust is too thin and fractured for S waves to travel through effectively, which is why they are not detected on the opposite side. The correct answer is B. This question demonstrates how scientific inferences are made from indirect evidence. The key observation is that S waves are not detected in certain areas, known as the S-wave shadow zone, on the side of the Earth opposite an earthquake. Since S waves cannot travel through liquids, this indicates that there must be a region within the Earth that is liquid and through which S waves cannot pass. This region is identified as the outer core. P waves do travel through the outer core but are refracted, creating their own shadow zone as well. The inner core, by contrast, is solid. Option A is incorrect because a solid core would transmit S waves. Option B correctly identifies the liquid outer core. Option C is incorrect. The mantle is solid rock, though it can flow plastically over very long timescales. Option D is incorrect. The crust is not the cause of the deep S-wave shadow zone. This is a classic example of how geologists use seismic wave data to map Earth's interior. How many did you score out of 5? Let us know in the comments below. Also, tell us which exam we should cover next. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more.